A lonely road outside Elkhorn, Wisconsin. A driver's headlights catch something crouched in the dirt. At first, it looks like an animal feeding in the dark. Then, it lifts its head and stands too tall, too wolf-like, too human. They call it the Beast of Bray Road, and the road was never just a road again.
What you are about to hear is believed to be real, based on witness accounts, testimonies, and public record. This is terrifying and true.
On a quiet country road in southern Wisconsin, there's a stretch of pavement that looks ordinary by day. Farm fields, mailboxes, ditches, darkness waiting beyond the headlights. But in the early 1990s, people around Elkhorn began reporting something they couldn't easily explain. A creature near the road. Large, hairy, wolf-like. Sometimes on four legs, sometimes standing like a man. Some witnesses believed they had seen an animal. Others wondered if they had seen something older. A werewolf, a dogman, a monster at the edge of the headlights. Skeptics point to wolves, coyotes, bears, and fear. But the sightings did not simply disappear. They gathered, they spread, and with the help of a local reporter, they became one of America's most enduring modern cryptid legends. Tonight, we travel to Bray Road, where folklore, eyewitness memory, and rural darkness meet, and where one question still waits in the ditch. What did people really see? Late October, 1991, Walworth County, Wisconsin. The road is narrow, black, and empty, hemmed in by farm fields that have gone brittle with autumn. The corn is mostly cut down now, but enough stalks remain to rattle in the wind like dry bones. Beyond the ditch line, the darkness gathers in layers. Fence posts, tree trunks, the hard angles of barns, and then the deeper black of the woods. This is Bray Road, a county lane outside Elkhorn, Wisconsin. By day, it's not much more than asphalt, mailboxes, farmhouses, and open fields. But at night, under a moon too pale to be comforting, it becomes the kind of road where your headlights seem to make the darkness worse. A driver comes over the rise. The tires hum, the heater ticks, the dashboard glows green. Then something moves at the edge of the beam. At first, it's low to the ground, hunched near the ditch, its shoulders shifting with a slow animal rhythm. Maybe it's a dog, or a coyote, or just a deer carcass and the shadow of something feeding. The car gets closer. The thing lifts its head. The face is wrong. Too long, too canine, too aware. Then it rises, not in the way a deer rises, not the way a dog bounds away. It unfolds upward, massive and hairy, with arms that seem too long and eyes that catch the headlights like burning coins. The body is wolfish, but the posture is nearly human. It stands beside the road for one impossible second, as if it owns the night and has been waiting to be seen. The driver hits the brakes. The creature drops, lopes, and lunges, depending on who tells the story, and then disappears into the fields. By morning, the road will only be a road again. But in Elkhorn, rumors have already begun to run faster than any animal. Teenagers whisper, farmers talk quietly, a county animal control officer collects strange reports in a folder, and a skeptical local reporter named Linda Godfrey hears a story so strange she almost laughs at it. A werewolf in Wisconsin. But when she starts asking questions, people answer, and the road begins to grow teeth. When it comes to Elkhorn, Wisconsin, it has the kind of name that already sounds like folklore. It sits in Walworth County, in the southeastern part of the state, surrounded by farmland, lakes, woods, and rural roads that twist through the countryside. It is close enough to larger cities that modern life is never far away, but far enough into open country that night can still feel old. That is a key element. Some legends need castles, some need deserts, some need deep ocean. The Beast of Bray Road needed a place where a person could be driving alone at midnight, see something impossible in a ditch, and have no one nearby to prove it happened. Bray Road is a real place, a rural road outside Elkhorn, cutting through fields and farm country. Before the legend, it was not a famous haunted highway. It was simply part of the local landscape. People used it because it went somewhere. They ignored it because they had no reason not to. Then the stories began to come. The modern legend broke into public view in December of 1991 when local reporter Linda S. Godfrey published an article called Tracking Down the Beast of Bray Road. In the week, a newspaper serving the Elkhorn area, Godfrey later said she went into the assignment with skepticism. It sounded like a seasonal oddity, the kind of weird local piece that makes people smile at breakfast and forget by lunch. A wolfish creature, a werewolf, something stealing chickens, eating roadkill, frightening people near a country road. But the article did not make the rumors go away. It simply gave them a name. The Beast of Bray Road. That name was everything. Before, the reports were scattered. A strange animal here, a terrifying glimpse there, a story told in a kitchen, a rumor passed at school. After it, the sightings had a container. People who might have never connected their experience to anyone else's suddenly had a phrase for it. If you had seen a huge, hairy, wolf-headed thing near Elkhorn, you had not just seen some anomaly. You had seen the beast. According to Godfrey's reporting and later summaries of the case, the first public witnesses described something wolf-like, but simply not a wolf. The recurring shape was tall, muscular, hairy, and canine, with a head of a wolf or German shepherd, and a body that could move on all fours, but also rise onto two legs. Some accounts gave it glowing eyes, some emphasized its chest and arms, some described it crouched over roadkill, others placed it sprinting through fields, crossing roads, or appearing suddenly in the headlights. This is where the story becomes a legend and also becomes deliciously unstable. Because the beast is not one clean image, it changes. In one telling, it's a giant wolf. In another, a hairy humanoid. In yet another, almost a Bigfoot with a dog head. Yet in another, it is a werewolf, not because anyone saw a human transform, but because the shape in the road seemed to violate the border between human and animal. And borders are where monsters truly live. The border of the farm field and the woods, the border of the road and the ditch, the border of animal and human, the border of what the witness saw and what the witness believed afterward. Godfrey's work made the story famous, but she did not invent the atmosphere that allowed it to glow. Rural Wisconsin already had old stories, old fears, and old dark roads. The Midwest has always been better at gothic horror than it gets credit for. It's not all castles and fog. Sometimes it's a silo against the moon. Sometimes it's a barn door hanging open in January. Sometimes it's a road between fields where something watches from the tree line. And in the late 1980s and early 1990s, people around Elkhorn were saying something was out there. One of the most frequently retold early modern encounters involves a young woman driving on or near Bray Road when she hit or almost hit something on the road. When she stopped or slowed, she reportedly saw a large, wolf-like creature that frightened her so badly she fled. In some versions, it scratched her vehicle. Other accounts from the era involve a creature crouched at the roadside, eating carrion, then rising on its hind legs as a car approached. These are perfect roadside horror images because they take something ordinary and tilt it half an inch into nightmare. Roadkill is ordinary. A pair of eyes in the headlights is also ordinary. But a 7-foot wolfman standing up from a carcass, that is when the ordinary world tears. Godfrey also learned that the Walworth County Animal Control Officer, John Fredrickson, had reportedly kept a file of strange creature reports. The folder has become part of Bray Road lore in itself because of its blunt, almost comic label, werewolf. It sounds like a prop from a horror movie, but it also captures the strange tension in the case. Officials may not have believed in supernatural monsters, but people were reporting something, and the reports were odd enough to keep together. By the time Godfrey's article spread, the beast had begun its second life. The first life was local. Whispered sightings, shaken drivers, strange animal reports. The second life was folkloric. Books, documentaries, TV segments, cryptid websites, Halloween tours, and late-night arguments about wolves, bears, coyotes, hoaxes, and dogmen. But before we run too far into the cornfield, we have to stop first for a little reality check. The Beast of Bray Road is a folklore case built from eyewitness reports, not a verified animal. The modern legend became public through Linda Godfrey's December article, and her later book helped organize the sightings into a broader narrative. The creature is usually described as a large wolf-like or dog-headed figure seen near Elkhorn and Bray Road, often moving between four-legged and two-legged posture. But there is no confirmed specimen, no verified biological evidence, and no official recognition of an unknown species. What we have are reports, patterns, memories, local history, and the way a name can turn scattered fear into legend. Still, the lack of proof does not make the story empty. In fact, it may be the lack of proof that makes it powerful. If a real wolf had been trapped, photographed, measured, and tagged, the story would have ended. It would have become wildlife management. But the beast stayed in the in-between. It remained something glimpsed, not captured. Something named, not solved. And as more people came forward, the legend stretched backward in time. After the 1991 article, older stories surfaced. One of the most famous retroactive accounts reaches all the way back to 1936, when a night watchman near Jefferson, Wisconsin, allegedly saw a strange wolf-like creature digging on or near a burial mound on the grounds of St. Coletta. The details vary depending on the retelling, and the distance from Bray Road itself makes it more an ancestral cousin than the same exact event. But folklore loves ancestry. Once a monster has a name, people begin searching the family tree. Suddenly, the beast was not just a 1990s rumor. It was a thing that had been here all along, sleeping under the farms, walking the tree lines, and waiting for headlights. A monster story does not become a legend because one person says, "I saw something." It becomes a legend when other people say, "So did I." That is the engine of Bray Road. Not a single sighting, but accumulation. The reports do not all match perfectly, and that's part of why skeptics are skeptical. But they rhyme. Large canid, strange posture, fearless presence, roadside encounter, fields and woods, a sense that the animal was not acting quite like any animal the witness knew. One person sees something crouched over roadkill. Another sees a hairy form running upright. Another sees a creature crossing a field, while yet another hears that chickens have gone missing or livestock has been disturbed. Some accounts describe claws on a vehicle. Some describe a powerful chest and long arms. Some give it red or amber eyes. Some are daytime sightings, which complicates the easy explanation that every witness was simply scared in the dark. If we were making this up from scratch, we might make it a bit tidier. But real folklore is messy because real witnesses are messy. People see things for a few seconds. They're driving, tired, afraid. The headlights are bouncing. The animal is moving. Memory rushes in afterward and tries to make a story out of the fragments. And then the story changes the memory. This is not an accusation. It's simply human nature. Imagine you're driving alone on Bray Road. It's late. you see something big and hairy in the ditch. It rises. You panic and speed away, your hands shaking when you get home. You tell someone, it looked like a wolf, but it stood up. They tell someone else. A week later, you hear other people have seen a werewolf near that same road. Now, what did you see? A wolf? A bear? A huge dog? A hallucination of motion and fear? Or the beast? The label pulls at memory like gravity. That does not mean witnesses are lying. Linda Godfrey repeatedly emphasized that many of the people she interviewed seemed sincere. Sincerity does not prove the creature exists, but it argues against dismissing the entire case as one big prank. In a small town, saying you saw a werewolf is not always a way to gain status. Sometimes it's a way to get laughed at for the rest of your life. This sincerity is the hook. It's what keeps the story from collapsing into campfire nonsense. The best Bray Road reports feel less like people trying to become famous and more like people reluctantly describing the moment their ordinary world stopped making sense. The creature's behavior is also fascinating. It's rarely described as a movie monster attacking crowds or smashing through windows. Instead, it appears as a scavenger, a watcher, a roadside feeder. It eats roadkill. It haunts the margins. It is terrifying partly because it seems indifferent. It does not need to roar. It only needs to stand up. That indifference makes it feel older than a slasher villain. A slasher chases you because you are the point. The beast seems to suggest you are not the point at all. You are a car passing through its territory. You are a flash of light. You are meat with a steering wheel. As the legend spread, Bray Road entered the wider American cryptid map. It joined a family of upright canine stories, like the Michigan dogman, the Louisiana rougarou, the old European werewolf, and other dog-headed figures that stalk the edge of regional folklore. These creatures are not identical, but they share an anatomy of dread. They take man's oldest companion, the dog, and sharpen it into something that remembers the wolf. Then they give it a human posture, and suddenly the familiar becomes blasphemous. That may be why Dogman stories hit differently than Bigfoot stories. Bigfoot is wild, hidden, hairy, and strange, but often neutral. It watches from the forest, it leaves footprints, it may be frightening, but it's also almost melancholy, like a surviving relic from a world before highways. The Beast of Bray Road feels hungrier. It belongs to the ditch, to the carcass, to the winter field. It's not just hidden nature, it is nature, with teeth and an almost human decision behind the eyes. That is the artistic flourish of the legend, and it's irresistible. But then comes the practical question. What animals actually live in Wisconsin, and what can they look like under bad conditions? Wolves are real in Wisconsin, The state's wolf population recovered significantly after being wiped out in earlier decades, and the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources continues to monitor wolf conflicts and population trends. Wolves are most associated with northern and central Wisconsin, but individual wolves can disperse, and the broader public debate over Wisconsin wolves has remained active for years. Coyotes are also real, common, and highly adaptable. They can appear larger than expected, especially in low light, especially when seen briefly, especially when winter fur is thick. They also eat carrion. A coyote in headlights at night can look uncanny, particularly if it's sick or injured, or perhaps mangy. Black bears are real in Wisconsin too. They're more common in the northern half of the state, but the Wisconsin DNR notes that southern Wisconsin has seen increased black bear activity in recent years. Bears can stand on their hind legs. A bear with mange, odd fur, or a lean build could create a startling silhouette, especially at night. And then there are domestic dogs, large breeds, loose animals, hybrids, and strays. A Great Pyrenees, Newfoundland, German Shepherd, Wolf Dog, or large mixed breed dog seen in a flash can become monstrous in the right mental weather. The most grounded explanation for Bray Road sightings are misidentified known animals, especially the aforementioned wolves, coyotes, bears, large dogs, or sick animals with mange. That doesn't mean every witness lied. It means the conditions around many sightings are exactly the conditions under which honest people can see something real and read it wrong. Still, skepticism has its own risks. It can become too neat. Say coyote quickly enough, and you can flatten every witness into a fool. Say bear confidently enough, and the story stops being interesting before you've actually listened. But the honest skeptical position is not that every report is worthless. It's that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And eyewitness testimony, sincere as it may be, is not enough to establish a new species, let alone a supernatural being. The fun lives in the gaps. The witness sees something. The skeptic explains something. The legend becomes something else. Bray Road did not need a werewolf to become famous. It needed an experience that felt like a werewolf, repeated often enough that the town could not simply laugh it away. And once that happened, the beast stopped being just a creature. It became a mirror held up to the road at night. A mirror with yellow eyes. By the time the Beast of Bray Road became nationally known, it had already passed through several transformations. First, it was an experience. Someone saw something. Then it was a rumor. Someone told someone. Then it was a report. Someone wrote it down. Then it was a newspaper story. Someone gave it a name. Then it was a legend. Everyone knew what to call it. That progression is the heartbeat of the case. Monsters are not only born in forests, they're born in language and conversation. A shape without a name can vanish into uncertainty. A shape with a name can live for generations. Linda Godfrey's role is central because she functioned as both investigator and as storyteller. She did what good local reporters do. She listened to strange claims without surrendering her brain. She followed up. She looked for patterns. She talked to witnesses. She reported that the people she met did not all seem like pranksters or attention seekers. Later, she continued to collect creature reports and became one of the best-known writers on American werewolf and dogman sightings. That doesn't mean every conclusion she drew must be accepted. It does mean the Beast of Bray Road was not simply an internet creepypasta. Its modern fame began in local journalism, before social media could turbocharge every shadow into a viral cryptid. This timing is very important. In 1991, rumors moved differently. They traveled by newspaper, phone call, school hallway, diner booth, and local television. A weird story could spread widely, but not instantly. People had more time to sit with it. The beast grew in a media environment where a local article could act like a match dropped into a pile of dry leaves. The fire spread, but it spread with the texture of place. Elkhorn became part of it. So did the fields. So did the roads. This is why the beast is more compelling than a generic werewolf. It isn't just a werewolf in Wisconsin. It is the Beast of Bray Road. The location pins it down. You can drive there. You can look out the window. You can imagine the ditch moving. But folklore is hungry. Once a story has a good shape, it starts absorbing other stories. The alleged 1936 Watchman account, other upright wolf reports, regional dogman sightings, old werewolf lore, native burial mound imagery in some retellings, animal mutilation claims, roadkill scavenger accounts. Each one becomes another bone in the skeleton. Some bones fit better than others. Some may not fit at all, but the creature grows. This is where responsible storytelling comes into focus. It is tempting, especially for a spooky show, to braid every report into one grand conspiracy of claws. The beast has stalked Wisconsin since the 1930s. It feeds on deer. It scratches cars. It vanishes into cornfields. It cannot be killed. It is ancient. It is waiting. That's fun. It's also not the same as proof. A legend can contain multiple truthful things without being literally true as a whole. A witness can truthfully report fear. A reporter can truthfully report that witnesses made claims. A town can truthfully remember a wave of strange stories. A scientist can truthfully say there's no verified creature. All of those truths can stand in the same room and make each other uncomfortable. That is what this show is all about. We let the candlelight flicker, but we don't pretend it's the sun. So, artistically, imagine the beast not as an animal, but as a process. It begins as movement in the ditch. It grows fur from repetition. It gets claws from fear. It learns to stand upright when a witness says, "It wasn't like any animal I ever saw." It gets a name from a headline. It gets a territory from a map. It gets immortality when people keep asking, "What if?" And once the beast has all of that, it can leave a mark, whether or not it ever leaves a track. And that's not a dodge. People drive differently because of stories. They make documentaries, books, movies, tours, podcasts, and Halloween plans because of them. A monster can be biologically unproven and still leave footprints in human life. The Beast of Bray Road has done just that. It's become one of Wisconsin's signature cryptids. It has outlived the original news cycle by decades. The most likely explanation for any given sighting may be a known animal, a mistaken glimpse, a hoax, or a story reshaped by time. But the collective legend has become larger than any single explanation. Folklore is not the same as fraud. A folklore case can grow from sincere reports, misidentifications, jokes, media coverage, local pride, fear, and repeated storytelling all at once. The Beast of Bray Road is best understood as a modern American legend with roots in specific witness claims and local reporting. That distinction lets us take witnesses seriously without pretending that every reported detail has been proven. There's also a psychological layer. Roadside sightings are especially powerful because driving creates a strange sensory tunnel. At night, your world shrinks to the cone of your headlights. Everything outside that beam is both invisible and close. You're moving fast, but you're sealed inside glass and metal. You have control until something enters the road. Then, your control vanishes. A deer can do that. A dog can do that. A fallen branch can do that. Now imagine the thing in the road looks back. The Beast of Bray Road thrives on the fear that the wilderness has not been pushed away as far as we think. The farms, roads, and houses may look settled, but the dark between them remains wild. The creature appears not in deep wilderness, but in human-edged space. Roads, ditches, fields, backyards. That makes it more disturbing. Bigfoot can stay in the mountains. The beast comes to the shoulder of the road. It is the monster of the half-domesticated landscape. A werewolf is the perfect symbol for that, because it's civilization turning inside out. A person becomes a predator. A neighbor becomes a danger. A familiar shape becomes meat and hunger. The Beast of Bray Road is not usually described as a transforming human, but it carries the same symbolic charge. It says the boundary is thinner than you think, between dog and wolf, man and animal, rural and quiet, and sudden terror. A funny local rumor and something that makes you check your rearview mirror. And this is where the road itself becomes haunted. Because a haunted place does not need a ghost, it needs expectation. If enough people believe a place might show them something, the place changes. Every shadow becomes eligible. Every animal becomes suspect. Every noise has an audition. Bray Road became a stage, The beast became the part everyone feared and, secretly, wanted to see. And Wisconsin gave the performance a perfect set. Autumn fields, lonely barns, lake effect cold, wood smoke in the air, and that special Midwestern darkness that feels less like absence of light and more like something with weight. Drive it in the day, and you may see nothing. Drive it at night, and the legend rides in the passenger seat, and you're afraid of far more than whether or not he brought gas money. So, what was the Beast of Bray Road? Let's start with the least romantic answer. Most likely the beast is not one thing. It's probably a cluster of things. The mentioned misidentified animals, the exaggerated memories, sincere fear, a few possible hoaxes, local rumor, media amplification, and the strange magnetism of a perfect monster name. And some may have been something we can't neatly reconstruct because the moment is gone. That's not as satisfying as just saying werewolf, but it is more honest. The wildlife explanations do deserve respect. As we've already seen, Wisconsin has plenty of real animals that can look wrong under the right conditions. Add headlights, adrenaline, rural isolation, and prior rumors, and the ingredients are all there. But the beast is not just a zoological problem. If this were only about animal identification, the story would have faded. It keeps returning because it scratches at something older. Human beings have always feared the creature at the edge of the firelight. Before roads, it was the wolf beyond the village. Before headlights, it was eyes beyond the torch. The wolf is one of our oldest nightmares because it is both real and symbolic. A hunter in the dark that looks just enough like the dog at our feet to remind us that domestication is not control. When people in modern Wisconsin describe a wolf-like thing rising in the headlights, they're not just reporting an animal. They're reviving an ancient fear in a modern setting. The car replaces the campfire. The ditch replaces the forest edge. The high beams replace the torch. And the monster is still there. That is why Bray Road works. It's not remote enough to feel irrelevant. It's not urban enough to feel safe. It sits in the uncanny middle. A place where ordinary people live ordinary lives until one night an ordinary drive becomes a story they simply cannot stop telling. The beast also survives because it offers something rare. A cryptid legend with personality. It's not just a large unknown animal. It's the roadside werewolf, the Wisconsin dogman, the thing that eats roadkill and stands like a man. It's absurd and frightening in equal measure, which is exactly the sweet spot for folklore. Too silly and people forget it. Too plausible and it becomes a wildlife report. The beast is balanced perfectly on the fence rail between laugh and scream. Imagine it. A moon over Walworth County, silvering the roofs of barns. Corn stubble scratching at the wind. A mailbox leaning beside the road. Somewhere, far off, a dog barking once, then deciding it has said enough. The ditch full of weeds, the smell of wet leaves and cold mud. Then, the sound. Not a howl, not exactly. A low, breathy huff. A shape rises from the carcass of a deer. Its muzzle shines dark. Its shoulders roll. Its eyes catch the headlights. For 1 second, your brain reaches into every drawer it has. Dog, wolf, bear, man. Nightmare. Nothing fits. The thing turns its head, and the road becomes very small. That moment, real or misremembered, animal or apparition, witness truth or folklore lighting, is the core of the case. The strongest conclusion is not werewolves are real or everyone made it up. The strongest conclusion is that Bray Road became the focal point for a cluster of strange animal sightings and stories that local reporting organized into one enduring legend. Known animals and human perception can explain a great deal. They may explain all of this, but the case remains powerful because it shows how quickly a rural road, a few sincere witnesses, and a perfect name can create a modern monster. There is an ethical piece too. When we tell cryptid stories, we should not treat every witness as gullible, but we also should not exploit them by pretending uncertainty is proof. The respectful middle path is to say, people experienced something that frightened them. Some gave accounts that became part of local history. We can explore the possibilities, enjoy the chills, and still admit that the evidence does not establish a literal unknown beast. This is not less spooky. In fact, I think it's spookier. Because if the beast is not a flesh and blood werewolf, then it's something more slippery. A creature made of perception, memory, fear, landscape, and story. You can't shoot that. You can't trap that. You can't prove it's dead with a photograph. A biological animal dies. A legend learns to adapt. Every generation gets to rediscover it. Every autumn, when the leaves dry out and the nights lengthen, the road waits again. And maybe that is the real ending. Not a solution. A road, a driver, a ditch. The ordinary world holding its breath because somewhere outside Elkhorn, Wisconsin, there is still a place where headlights sweep across the grass and your mind fills in the shape before you can stop it. Maybe it's a coyote. Maybe it's a bear. Maybe it's a big farm dog nosing through roadkill. Maybe it's nothing at all. But for one terrible second, as the thing at the edge of the road lifts its head, you understand why the legend survived. You understand why people named it. You understand why they kept talking. And whether the Beast of Bray Road is an animal, a mistake, a hoax, a haunting, or a story with claws, one thing is absolutely true. No one had to prove it was real for it to make the road feel wrong. The beast may have never fully stepped out of the ditch, but the story did, and it's still walking to this day. Terrifying and True is narrated by Enrique Couto. It's executive produced by Rob Fields and Bobbletopia.com. And produced by Dan Wilder, with original theme music by Ray Mattis. If you have a story you think we should cover on Terrifying and True, send us an email at weeklyspooky@gmail.com. And if you want to support us for as little as $1 a month, go to weeklyspooky.com/join. Your support for as little as $1 a month keeps the show going. And speaking of, I want to say an extra special thank you to our Patreon podcast boosters, folks who pay a little bit more to hear their name at the end of the show. And they are Johnny Nix, Kate and Lulu, Jessica Fuller, Mike Eschewey, Jenny Green, Amber Hansford, Karen Wiemet, Jack Kerr, and Craig Cohen. Thank you all so much, and thank you for listening. We'll see you all right here next time on Terrifying and True.